Welcome back to the EJ Ward Fuel View training series. In this video, we're going to go over vehicles at a glance. To get there, we need to drop down the status folder here, and then we can go to vehicle at a glance. From here, you're going to be given a blank page, and what we can do is drop down and we can select the vehicle that we want to look at. So the first one I'm going to look at is our test vehicle, which is test 123. And when I select that, it's going to give us all the information on this vehicle. So it's a little bit more than the vehicles page itself, but it shows a lot of the same information as the vehicles. It just shows it in a really quick format. Just like the at a glance screen, we have our refresh here at the top right hand side of each page or each section, and I'm going to go over all the sections going from left to right. So the first one we have here is the vehicle number. If I click on that vehicle number, it's going to take me to that vehicle record and pull it open in a pop-up. I would have the VIN number here if I needed the VIN number. The VIN number is specifically important when you have a Ward 4 CanSeaver because it marries up with that, but I don't have a CanSeaver in this guy. So this is what it would look like if you don't have a CanSeaver hooked up. I have our make, our model, our year, the vehicle type. We have our fuel. We have the odometer. We have our maximum quantity. We have if it has a CanSeaver in it or not. If it does, it would have the CanSeaver ID here. If it's a Ward 4 CanSeaver, which is the serial number. And then I have if a GPS antenna is installed. I also have the distance driven, how much fuel has been pumped, and then what my fuel economy is. Now my fuel economy is 0 miles per gallon because I don't have any distance, because I wasn't required to put in the odometer when I actually fueled this vehicle. I can show the last time that I fueled this vehicle at, how much I pumped the last time that I fueled, and then I can have a fueling analysis below that, and these are just averages. So it shows how much fuel I do per transaction on average, my average amount of fuel used per day, how many days I've operated into the system, and then how many days that I have an average between fuels. Underneath that, I have fuel usage projections. So this is what I'm going to do the next 60 days, the next 90 days, 180 days, and 365. And this is how many gallons I'm going to be going through. So of course, this isn't really a good one to show because I don't have much fueling inside of the system, but if you had something that was using it all the time, it would be pretty fairly accurate if they're using the same amount each time. Up at the top in the middle here, I have the last reported location, and we're going to go ahead and look at another vehicle for this here after we get done going through the rest of the screen. This is actually going to show a map view and a pinpoint of the last location that that vehicle was at when it talked to the server. So if you have a system that has a SIM card inside of it, it's going to talk to it constantly all the time. Then you'll be able to see where that vehicle is at. If it's a regular Ward 4 CanSeaver, it's basically going to show you the last time it connected to the server itself and offloaded all of its information. Below that, I have the transaction history. So you can see the two transactions that I had inside of the system. It shows how many number of transactions. This is going to show all those transactions that are with that associated with that vehicle. So it could be a fairly long list. I can click on the date and time and go into that transaction if I want to. I have the amount of fuel that I've pumped between all of those transactions and then the distance driven for all of the transactions as well. And each transaction, it can give me a distance driven and then my fuel economy for each one. Up on the top right hand side, I have my emissions. So I have my CO2, my N2O, and my CH4. So I only have the CO2 set up for the vehicle type that I have set up. So it shows my emissions here based on my fuelings. And then all of these would fill up if I had the coefficients for each of these inside of the vehicle type that I have selected for this vehicle. Since I don't have a CanSeaver, it's not going to be able to give me an idle summary, so I don't have any of that right now. And now let's go ahead and go to a vehicle that does have a GPS inside of it. And we'll load that one up. Now this one is pretty much the opposite as the last vehicle. It doesn't have any fueling information because it's not fueling anything, but it does have the CanSeaver in it. So I can see the last time that it actually connected to the server, and it shows a map. So I can actually zoom out here and go to the map or zoom into it and go, but it's just going to have the little pinpoint of where the vehicle last was when it communicated with the server. And then I also have my vehicle idle summary here. So I have the waste idle time, how many waste idle events, and waste idle is basically after it's a certain amount of time it's been idling, it counts all of that from that point of time and afterwards as waste idle, and that's all set up through the CanSeaver main config. Then we have the total idle time, and then we have how many total idle events it's had, and then you have a percentage of what the waste idle is versus the total idle. And this will keep calculating as long as the vehicle's in the system and it's going through its idle time with a CAN receiver inside of it. So this concludes the information that you can get from the vehicle at a glance screen in the FieldView system. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.